Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. With that, we'll go ahead and get started. So again, my name is Haley. Good morning or good afternoon, and I'll be your host as we discuss today's topic, which is the AI cost tsunami, strategies for efficient AI cost management. This is brought to you by DigitalEx and hosted by VIB. Today's webinar is going to be about 45 minutes long, and we'll save the last 15 minutes or so for Q&A. We ask that you use the Q&A button at the bottom of your window to ask any and all questions, and we'll do our best to answer those either throughout the presentation or within that Q&A time. And if you have your pop-up blocker on, please ensure that it is turned off, as we've got some grateful questions for this webinar. And now, without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speakers for today, Sandeep, CEO at DigitalEx, and then Safi, founder and CTO of DigitalEx as well. Guys, you may take it away.
Thank you, Haley. Really appreciate the introduction. Thank you all for joining. As Haley said, I'm one of the founders and CEO of DigitalEx. My background is early stage enterprise B2B software. So I've worked in a variety of domains, but I don't know if I've ever worked anywhere quite as exciting as this intersection of cloud and AI. So really excited to lead the discussion today and kind of impart some of the lessons that we're learning from our customers as they try to put their arms around cloud and AI and how to keep those costs under control. With that, I'll turn it over to Safi to let him introduce himself.
Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon. I'm Safi Siddiqui, one of the founders and CTO of DigitalEx. Over the last decade, I've had opportunities to build and ship different SaaS and cloud products, work for some startups, work for large companies like IBM, where I help build their multi-cloud management platform. I'm excited to be here, looking forward to a great session. We're going to share some insights we've gained working at DigitalEx, different customers with some real world use cases and some of the challenges they're facing when it comes to AI cost.
All right. Perfect. And one thing Safi and I love is interactive, right? So I know it's a large group. It's hard to make it super interactive, but please ask questions in the Q&A window, and we'll do our best to answer all of them ideally, but as many as we can. So thank you all. All right, with that, I'm going to kick off. All right, so from an agenda perspective, here's what we want to cover. We want to talk about the tsunami, right? There is a ton of cost that's about to hit enterprise IT. So we want to talk about the reality and put some numbers on that. We want to talk about some of the technical complexities around AI. It's different than other types of workloads that people have traditionally been running. So we want to get into that. Safi can really go deep on that to the extent that it's interesting for the audience. To talk about the cost implications of those technical realities, and then of course, we want to be part of the solution here, right? So we're not the only solution but we definitely have experience helping our customers solve these problems. So we want to kind of discuss what we see and how we've been able to add value back to the industry. So just from a level set perspective, AI cost is coming, but cloud cost is already here. So I'm imagining many of you on this webinar are already running workloads in the cloud, whether it's AWS, whether it's Azure, Google Cloud, Oracle Cloud. You may be running some private cloud assets as well. If you just scan the headlines, right, the cloud spend is already out of control, even before you consider AI, right? Some of the headlines from this slide that you'll see, from the press, cloud budgets, people have been overrunning budgets. They've been growing 40% year over year. Gartner is forecasting spend to get to close to 700 billion this year. Companies are trying to what people are laying off staff while their cloud budgets are overrunning. It's a painful environment, right, of cloud cost overruns. Depending on the research you read, from Accenture or McKinsey, anywhere from 30 to 35% of existing cloud spend is literally waste. It's literally adding no value back. So the number's growing fast, and we're wasting more and more money every year, right? And that's the backdrop of all of this, right? Even before AI, there's a infrastructure spend problem that almost all of our customers are feeling, right? They're saying, "Hey, my CFO's screaming. My budget has been growing 35%, 40% every single year. There's no end in sight. How can I at least, even if I don't reduce costs, how can I flatten the curve to slow the rate of growth?" right? So I think hopefully that resonates with many people in this group. That's typically what we hear, right? We need to get our cloud spend under control, and now we're adding AI, and I need to get my AI spend out of control. And the two are linked and related, as we're going to talk about. So here's a real world customer. This isn't actually, I can't say the name of the customer for confidentiality reasons. This is a real DigitalEx customer and what they experienced. They were spending about $17 million a year. They were a multi-cloud customer. This is not AI. This is just normal cloud compute workloads. They're, spending 17 million a year, and the spend is going up and up and up. And then they're like, okay, I need to run an optimization project. I'm going to do a stop. Let's try to figure out how we can lower spend. 17 million became 16 million. So, hey, success. We were able to save $1 million a year, but then it immediately goes back up. Immediately. And now, okay, a year later or a year and a half later, hey, now we're past where we were. Right now we're at 20 million. Let's run another optimization project, try to drop the spend a little bit. They do, and then it goes right back up. And some version of this is what typically our customers are experiencing, is we can't slow the rate of growth, of cost growth, of spend growth. We can do like short-term things to slow the growth, but ultimately it just goes back up. There's not like a long-term systematic answer to solve this budget overrun problem, solve this cost problem. That's kind of what we see and kind of why Safi and I started this business, right? We experienced this on the customer side, like, hey, there has to be a better way to solve this problem. Increasing spend eats budget up that you could spend on things to grow your business, things like sales, marketing, staff. So solving this problem is a strategic imperative, particularly for tech-centric businesses that spend a disproportionate amount of money on cloud. So you step back, cloud, it's soon going to be $1 trillion a year business. Literally, according to Gartner, by 2027, it's literally $1 trillion a year. And again, anywhere from 31 to 35% of that $1 trillion is waste. It is literally, it's resources you should have shut off. It's resources that you can right size and save money. It's paying exorbitant rates when you don't have to. There's discount programs available to lower your rates. There's a variety of ways, but it all translates into waste. So you have that $1 trillion wave of cost hitting. And now, according to all the analysts, AI spend is another $1 trillion of cost that's about to hit the enterprise. It's already in the hundreds of billions, and it's growing 40-ish% year over year. So you have those two waves hitting. We believe enterprise IT, or at least most of our customers, are not ready for that double wave of cost. So we want to interject a few poll questions because we want to keep it interactive and we want to learn from the audience. So thank you, Haley. Yeah, would love for everybody to take a minute, answer the question, and we'll see what the results are like. I'm very interested in this because I think obviously AI is in the press a lot now, but many of the organizations that we talk to are sort of just getting started, right? They mostly would say A or B. So I'd be curious to see what this audience is doing. But my guess is we're going to see a lot of B, especially. There you go. It's exactly what I thought. The 47% of the audience is starting to run initial pilots, and that's consistent with what Safi and I see. And I think the real question is running the pilots. It's relatively straightforward to run a pilot, and the costs are pretty controlled. What happens when those pilots go to production? And what's it going to cost? What budget should I set? What does the forecast look like long term? Those are all the questions as you go from pilot to production that we want to help answer. But thank you all for answering that poll. So now let's delve deeper into this problem through an AI lens, right? So we talked about cloud spend already overrunning. Now we're adding AI. What are the realities on AI spend? So you look at the graph on the black. It's a little bit fuzzy. Apologize for that. But from Bloomberg, what's AI spend or Gen AI spend going to look like? Right? It's going to grow very, very quickly. Like I said, in the early 2030s, it's going to be $1 trillion a year business, right? So the spend is there. Our partner ISG, really, really strong research group, is projecting sort of what percent of IT spend is going to be covered by AI or is going to be allocated to AI. The percentage of spend is going up steeply. A lot of that spend, $5.5 trillion of spend over the next 8 years, it's unbudgeted. Often we see CEOs talking to Wall Street about big investments they're going to make in AI and sort of qualitatively making big promises. But a lot of the spend to make those promises real is unbudgeted, is unforecasted. And then the cheapest tier of some of these LLM systems are very, very expensive, right? And so even as you get into let me start small. Starting small can still be very, very expensive. So I think that's part of the reality. As you go from pilot to production, you immediately see costs, significant costs hit your enterprise, unbudgeted, unforecasted. Next reality is, and this is different than cloud, and I think this is interesting. A lot of our customers have told us, hey, we run AWS and Azure, but our plan is to be Azure only. We want to be a single cloud company over time. We think AI is fundamentally different than cloud in this respect. You could be a single cloud customer. We think being a single LLM customer is very, very unlikely. If you look at this research again from our partner ISG, they've basically done a lot of work on sort of cataloging various tasks across different LLM models. And essentially the research is, it's sort of obvious if you think about it, different LLMs are good at different tasks. And what that means, the implication of that is you're going to have composite applications. You're going to have an application using multiple models depending on the task and using the right model for the right task based either on quality or based on cost. And so as you have that reality of multi-models, you have multiple applications, each application running multiple models, having a single pane of glass, a single place to manage all of those LLMs and all of the costs becomes critical. You can't rely on a single cost model from a single LLM because you won't be able to standardize on one model. So I don't know, Safi, if there's anything you'd add there, but I'll give you a little room here.
So again, just to kind of add more color, I think this is becoming a norm. We're seeing multiple applications use multiple LLMs for different purposes, like Sandeep said. You might use Mistral, open source Llama, Anthropic for some things, for ranking, maybe Cohere is better. So you have different LLMs being used for different purposes. And some of these models or LLMs are being shared by application teams, projects, and departments, right? So it's important to kind of track cost and see the cost per application, per project, also see the cost for your LLMs as well, right? So you can do better forecasting and do better planning, and also can calculate ROI. And at the end of the day, ROI matters the most. So yeah.
All right. So next reality, financial visibility is low, right? We talked a little bit about this, unbudgeted, unforecasted. If you look at the graph on the upper right, 56% of the customers surveyed are like believe ROI is positive, but aren't measuring it. So you think about some of these applications are very expensive. The models that underlie these applications are very expensive, and we don't even necessarily know what the ROI is. That's a very dangerous place to be, right? You need to know. I mean, we're big on let's understand what the costs are going to be. Let's understand what the budget, what the forecast is, and then let's balance that with the value. And if there's not positive ROI, then there's not positive ROI, and you should stop, right? The assumption that AI is the best solution for every single problem, we just fundamentally believe is false. It's a very powerful tool. It can absolutely add a lot of value, but you need to be getting your hands around the ROI and the value and the cost upfront. I think pilots is a good place to do that, right? It sounds like a lot of this audience is starting pilots. That's a great place to project out what are the costs and what are the value, and just ensure sanity check that before you flip into production. And we talked about this. AI spend is coming on top of cloud spend. So some more market data on sort of what's happening in cloud spend. But again, cresting over $1 trillion soon. AI spend coming on top, and then 30 to 35% of that is waste. Excess capacity. I bought more capacity than I needed. My rates aren't optimized. I have services running that I should shut off or right size. There's a variety of things. We generally see when our customers start using our technology, they're able to save anywhere from 15 to 30% off of their cloud bill within 3 to 4 months, right? So it can be a dramatic level of waste that can be quickly addressed. Last point here that I want to make on sort of to profile the problem is We believe, and our customers are telling us, that these AI workloads are going to run hybrid. They're not all going to run public cloud. So we hear about OpenAI running on Azure, Gemini running on Google, and no doubt those models are going to get a lot of use. We're going to see strong spend and strong adoption there. But we also have customers telling us, for cost reasons or data security reasons, there's certain applications or certain workloads that they want to run on a private cloud. So you can see some research here in the chart in terms of AI workloads being deployed public, private. Basically only 32%, according to this research, being public only. So the majority of them living either in private or hybrid. So managing whatever technology and processes you use to manage AI costs need to have that hybrid reality in mind for the majority of our customers. They're gonna be running workloads public and private. That's something that we as a company sort of have always been doing. Now we're applying some of that same technology and expertise to AI workloads that are running in a hybrid environment. All right, poll questions 2. What do you think your biggest challenge will be managing AI costs? I'm very curious on this. Lack of visibility, forecast, optimization, or justifying to leadership? And I'll give everybody a minute here to vote. All right, interesting. So 11% lack of visibility into spending, 48% forecast, 15% optimization, 26% justifying AI to leadership. That's exactly what I think we'd see too. Forecast and justification are probably the two things that our customers are struggling with the most, right? There's excitement around AI, but leadership doesn't understand it. They don't know what the cost will be. Again, it's unforecasted, it's unbudgeted, and it's unclear what the ROI will be. And that is, it's not a technical problem, really. If you step away from it, it's not an AI, how do I adopt the technology problem? It is how do I think about this through a business context? What's the cost? What's the ROI? How do I ensure that I'm delivering business value back? Right. And that's, again, where we want to live as a company, is that sort of the intersection of finance and IT, and providing cost visibility to help customers run their cloud and AI more efficiently. So interesting. Thank you all for participating in that. All right. All right. So a little bit about what we do, right? Point of today isn't to give you a commercial about what we do. If we are interesting, obviously Safi and I are happy to offline to go deeper on the company. But fundamentally what we do briefly is we are a hybrid cloud company. So we support Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Oracle from a public cloud perspective. And importantly, we support VMware and Kubernetes from a private cloud perspective. And again, we think supporting public and private is critical as you start thinking about AI cost control or AI cost management. Once we connect to one or more clouds that a customer is running, we essentially build up a giant data lake of cost and usage information, and then we give you a variety of capabilities. We have cost optimization technology that will identify specific actions you can take to save money. We have a cost allocation framework that will allocate cloud and AI costs per business unit or per department or per application team, or however your business is organized, right? We're going to essentially do the cost allocation. So you'll have visibility at a granular level to hold people accountable for their spend. That's actually the feature most of our customers use more than anything else on this list, is that strong cost allocation capability. Budgeting and alerting, and this can be related to cost allocation. So if I set up an allocation rule for a business unit, I can set a budget for that business unit, and I can be alerted, tell me when my European business unit is over their monthly budget, or tell me when they're over 125% of their budget, or whatever alerting sort of threshold you want to set. But drive visibility and then drive accountability for your cloud and AI costs. We do forecasting. I've talked a lot about that. We have a machine learning informed forecasting model that takes into account 17 different data points and intelligently predicts what your spend will be per BU, per application, per department. Again, whatever granularity you want to see. And we update our models every single day. Anomaly detection, it's another machine learning item. Our machine learning learns how you spend and consume on cloud and AI. And if we notice something abnormal, we flag it. This is something very near and dear to my heart. Prior to DigitalEx, I ran a small MarTech business, and we budgeted about $100,000 a year for AWS to run our system. Lots of months, engineering would push a new release, and my $100,000 budget would be 200,000, 225,000. I would only know about that after the fact, after it was too late to do anything about it. So the deal with anomaly detection is it's an early warning system if we notice something abnormal for you to take action, and then automated remediation. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Safi to go deeper into some of the specific use cases in AI cost management we're seeing.
All right. So working with many prospects and customers, we identified three primary use cases when it comes to AI cost. The first one is about LLM cost. As you all have said, right, you are either running some pilots or POCs or running into production. So some of the challenges you see during experimentation phase are different when you roll out this into production. So it's better to kind of investigate the cost from the get-go. So we provide a single pane of glass where you can see the cost of all your LLMs, right? You should be able to see the cost from third-party LLM providers like OpenAI, or if you're using cloud service providers like AWS, you should be able to track the cost for Bedrock. Through Bedrock, you can track the cost for Titan, Cohere, some other models as well, or Azure OpenAI. So single pane of glass is becoming very important. So you can see the cost per model, per application, per team, and so on. And one of the important things is to be able to kind of forecast the cost, right? How much you're going to be spending. Not only during the POC, but after the POC. When you roll out into production, things change a little bit. Your concerns, you're mostly interested in throughput. Want to make sure like the end users are having good experience. So you're going to keep those in mind and also forecast based on that. And you want to start assigning budgets. You want to do allocation so you can track cost. And also unit economics becomes very important. You want to see the average cost per token, per request, per model. So you can start comparing, different models, especially when they're all meeting your needs when it comes to accuracy. You want to get into the cost. Cost becomes an important factor. So this is one of the use cases. The second one, we're starting to see actually a lot of companies as well as MSPs, right, trying to charge back the GPU usage, right? They either have GPU clouds or cluster, different teams or customers are sharing, and they want to meter the usage in terms of GPU, compute and memory and then to be able to kind of charge back to their customers. And some of the large enterprises who have multiple AI data science teams, they also want to see how much of their GPU cluster different teams are using. So we're starting to see these use cases as well. This applies more to traditional AI, but as companies start deploying the LLM models on-prem, they can also have this kind of situation where they want to see how much each model is costing them, when they're on-prem. The third one is something Sandeep already touched upon. Hybrid cloud is back. Probably it never went away, but we're starting to see more AI workloads running on-prem. So it becomes very important to see the cost of your AI workloads, whether they're running, whether you're running LLMs or traditional AI, alongside the cost of your other workloads on-prem. So a single pane of glass becomes more important to track cost of your AI workloads, regular workloads, data cost, everything. Right. So when it comes to LLM cost management, Sandeep did touch upon some of these features, but I just want to emphasize how we can help when it comes to managing your LLM cost. So we saw a picture before, a similar picture where you could see multiple applications using multiple models, and multiple models being shared by different applications. So what DigitalEx does is bring in the visibility. We provide a single pane of glass where you can see the cost for all your LLMs. We connect with your OpenAI accounts or your AWS Bedrock, Gemini, Azure OpenAI, all of those. And we also track the usage for all these applications, projects, teams, services. So you can start, setting up budgets, start allocating cost to different application teams, do forecasting, detect anomalies on a near real-time basis, and do unit economics as well. And we also integrate with a variety of hyperscalers. We integrate with AI gateways if you're using, to kind of track cost per request and so on, such as an account, Cloudflare, and so on. All right.
Perfect. Next poll question. How much of your organization's cloud spend do you estimate will be dedicated AI usage? That'll be interesting. Some of the ISG research we saw, AI spend as a percentage of IT spends ramping over 10% of total IT spend. So it should be significant, but let's see what folks say right now. My guess is we're still in the early days here. All right, interesting. Yep, it's kind of what I thought. Basically less than 10% and 10 to 25% is the majority of where people are. I think that's true. I think there's a comment in the chat that there's a huge denominator, which I definitely agree with. Enterprise IT is a big number right now, and the percent on AI, we're largely in pilot. So the spend is small. I think it'll be interesting to ask the same question in 2 to 3 years. My guess is we'd see dramatically different numbers on the percentage of spend that's on AI. But thank you all for answering. So, I think before we get to Q&A, just, in closing, we believe $1 trillion wave of cloud spend already here, $1 trillion wave of AI spend about to hit, whether that's LLM spend, whether that's GPU spend. There's a lot of folks, a lot of spend about to hit, with continuing to see a high rate of growth, right? And that's ultimately the problem that we want to solve. And if this is interesting in terms of going deeper into our solution, there's several ways that you can proceed. One is Safi and I, we have our emails, I think in the title slide. We're happy, feel free to email me or Safi directly. There's also a couple of QR codes here. You can get a short 10-minute recorded demo on YouTube, or you can directly schedule time on our calendar, and we're happy to go through it one-on-one with you live. So with that, I'm gonna go to some questions. What LLM models are you considering implementing? Cohere, OpenAI, Gemini, Bedrock. So I don't know, Safi. I mean, maybe I'll let you try to answer that question.
No, I think it depends. Maybe it's a question for the audience. We are seeing actually pretty much all of them being used, right? OpenAI is probably the leading LLM model right now, but we are starting to see a lot of Gemini, Bedrock, Anthropic as well, Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of the customers I'm talking to are starting with 1 or 2 models just for pilot purposes, but the assumption is that's going to grow as they get more detail on the performance of those initial models, and the assumption is they're going to test other models, and the number of total models will grow. But good question. In the phased approach to LLM cost management, you mentioned token optimization. Can you explain what token optimization entails and how it can significantly impact overall AI costs?
Yeah, I can take it, Sandeep, if
Yep.
it's okay. So basically, the first step is to kind of see to understand the cost per token, average token, because sometimes it could be different than what you see as the list price, especially when you're rolling your LLM models out into production. You may want to consider throughput also. So you need to get with maybe go with dedicated capacity, or what they call provision throughput, right? The cost could vary. So when it comes to optimization, of course, there are different techniques. First, you want to understand the cost per token, so you can start thinking about optimization. There are techniques to kind of compress the tokens. There are some light LLMs or local LLMs that you can use. There's some SDKs available. We have a lot of experience working with many customers, so would like to kind of take this offline further if you're interested. Yeah, so there are a lot of techniques to kind of optimize tokens.
Yeah, thanks, Safi. The presentation touched on the difference between traditional cloud spend and AI spend. Could you elaborate on the unique challenges of managing costs for multi-model LLM composite apps, and why single pane of glass approach is more critical in this context? Safi, you wanna answer that, or you want me to?
No, I can take it.
Yep.
The managing cloud cost is different, right? LLMs, as Sandeep talked about, right? It is going to be a norm for application to use different LLMs for different purposes, right? Some of the reasons are like because it's super easy to switch. There are SDKs which are compatible, with different models. You can use LangChain, which works across all, which supports all of the major LLMs. So one of the reasons why it's becoming so, commonplace. And the challenges are like, as you end up using so many models, you have no idea of how much you're spending on each of these models, and also you want to start looking at closely when you roll this out into production, because you may during experimentation see the cost is okay, but as you go live, you can have 100,000 users hitting. Now your cost will go through the roof. So to bring the visibility in a single pane of glass, so you can clearly see this model for this app is costing me this much for this day, right? That's very important. So using that information, you can do maybe A/B testing first. You can start with a smaller maybe audience, do the test and see the cost, and then you can maybe cut it loose, right? You can do some forecasting projections based on that initial data set, and that will be can be done all if you have a common tool or a single pane of glass to see everything together. Otherwise, you will be going to OpenAI console to see the cost. They may not give you a lot of details. They may not even give you cost per maybe request or per service, because it depends how you're using the headers or tagging. Or if you go to AWS Bedrock, it will give you a different interface. You will have to kind of figure out how much you're spending through that interface. So it's important to kind of have something which can easily give you all the data in a single interface.
I agree, Safi. I think just having a common language across models, right? If you rely on different models, have different tools, and they give you different data points, it's hard to have sort of a common language across them, especially when you're talking to finance, right? So that would be sort of my comment on that. All right. You mentioned the cheapest enterprise tier of OpenAI Azure. How can smaller organizations or those just starting with AI justify this kind of expenditure? Are there more cost-effective ways to begin implementing AI solutions? I mean, I think I'll say one comment, then I'll turn over to Safi. This is part of why we're seeing some of our customers start on private cloud. Candidly, is they can control the costs a little bit better than going with sort of standard commercial public cloud tiers, which sort of lock you into certain spend levels. So that's part of the answer. But Safi, anything you'd add?
No, I think you answered it right. So initial test experimentation is super easy, right? Not very expensive as well, right? You can go with on-demand pricing, pay-as-you-go pricing, and you can start experimenting. But once you start thinking about deployment into production, you got to think about the response times, throughput, all those things. And then you end up going with an enterprise, tier, right? And that's where you see a lot of, basically a lot of expenses will, pile up very fast. So enterprises, big enterprises can afford, but smaller can still do experimentations though. And we think like it's going to be getting cheaper as we go. It's already cheaper than it was 2 years ago. So that's going to be the case. But it's important to kind of understand the pricing, understand the capacity you need to be able to do forecasting, so you can plan better and you can be better prepared.
We can give it a minute, but otherwise, I wanted to thank everybody for attending. Really enjoyed the questions, some really good questions. And again, if going deeper into this one-on-one would help, Safi and I are happy to make time. Go deeper into our solution and go deeper into some of the problems we think we see our customers trying to solve with it.
Absolutely. With that, we can go ahead and give you guys a few more minutes in your day for today's presentation. We want to thank you so much for attending. Thank you so much for having the jam-packed agenda from DigitalEx. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And if you have any questions through VIB, of course, you can always reach us at webinars@vib.tech. So I want to again thank you, Sandeep, Safi, DigitalEx, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day.